Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Hargo Farms. I am John Gould. Together with my wife Sue, son Stephen, and daughter-in-law Jill, we operate this 250-cow organic dairy. And with the help of some very good employees, we keep it running every day. I currently am chairman of the board of Upstate Niagara Cooperative in Lancaster, New York. And I would like to thank the senator and the Senate Majority Leader.
That's me.
Schumer, for joining us today. Senator Schumer has been a long-time advocate for New York State dairy farmers in the industry. He's keenly aware of the importance of New York State dairy industry to the economy of our communities, but more importantly, to the quality of the nutrition we provide for the region and the nation and the world. Perfect example is Wacka Milk Products in Batavia, New York, that processes retorted canned evaporated milk that's shipped well beyond the borders of this country. Senator Schumer is here today to talk about the importance of passing a new on-time farm bill that maintains the critically important dairy margin coverage program. According to our National Milk Producers Federation Government Relations Liaison, in 2018 during the Farm Bill debate, without Senator Schumer and his staff, there would be no DMC program. Critical. To give you an idea of the impact, so far this year, DMC has paid out $38.8 million to New York State dairy farmers in support of their dairy farm businesses. There's a lot involved in writing a farm bill.
Oh, yes.
And I assure you, we'll be working with the senator and his staff to advocate for dairy nutrition, establishing a permanent disaster relief program for milk, in support of ag labor reform legislation that stabilizes our workforce on our farms.
Much needed.
These are the safety nets we need to keep dairy farmers farming. So it's my pleasure to welcome from the great state of New York the Majority Leader of the United States Senate, Senator Chuck Schumer.
Thank you, Mr. Gould.
Yeah,
thank you. Let me thank the Gould family for not only milking all these cows, but for the great work they do. And I'm going to get to the dairy in a minute, but I have a new hot-off-the-press announcement that I want to make that's going to affect upstate New York, particularly rural New York, throughout. I just got off the phone with Secretary Raimondo. I am proud to announce, this is the first time it's being announced, I am proud to announce that because of the bipartisan infrastructure law, New York is going to receive a record-setting $670 million in federal funding to expand broadband and high-speed internet and close the digital divide. We desperately need that money. This is the largest single investment in broadband history in New York. It's game-changing. For too long, residents across New York State, from Buffalo to Rochester to Albany, to rural areas in particular, like here where we're standing in Genesee County, have lacked sufficient access to fast, reliable, affordable, high-speed internet. The pandemic laid bare many things, one of which is that broadband is no longer a luxury. Just like electricity became an essential, just like electricity was essential for everyone in the 20th century, broadband is for the 21st century. You need it everywhere. Your kids need it to go to school. Our local hospitals need it to do telemedicine. Individuals need it for their small businesses. Farmers need it so they can keep up with the latest weather and other reports that they so desperately need. And we have had too many people who either don't have broadband or when it becomes too expensive can't afford broadband. This will affect both. It will affect our rural areas and our outer suburban areas that either don't have any broadband or get really junky broadband that doesn't work. But it will also affect our city areas where people can't afford broadband, and it puts their kids and everybody else at a disadvantage. The $670 million will go to the state. They will have to submit a plan as to where They are putting the money for the broadband, and that has to be approved by the Commerce Department. Broadband is how you go to work, how you stay connected with loved ones, get an education, or even receive your health care. I fought very hard to make sure that broadband was in the bipartisan bill. It started out as the old-time stuff. Roads, bridges, highways, rail. That's needed, and it's in the bill. But I said we also need broadband because that's part of the 21st century way of commerce. And as Majority Leader, I was able to insist that it be put in the bill. And I also made sure that the formula was very good for New York. And so we're getting $670 million. It will directly connect locations in New York that currently have no or weak broadband. It will also affect municipalities where there are people who might be right near the wire but can't afford broadband. So for cities like Buffalo and Rochester and Syracuse and Albany and Utica and Binghamton, it's important. And for counties like Genesee and you name it, counties across Steuben and Delaware and Clinton, counties that are rural counties across the country, across the state, it will make a huge difference. Today's a great day for New York. I'm proud to deliver. I went around the state promising I would deliver broadband. We got a few grants. Nearby Livingston County got an initial grant so they could be covered, but the rest of the state will now be covered from one end to the other. Will this be enough money to cover everybody? Pretty close. If there won't, there's still some extra money there that's not part of these grants that we can get. But it should mean that everyone, just like now just about everybody has access to electricity, within a few years, everybody will have access to good, high-speed broadband. So that's a good announcement. And maybe I'll do a few questions on that before I get to the farm issue from the press. Does that make sense? Press? Yes, so we don't divide it up. Questions on broadband? Anybody?
I know you said that there is going to be a process before about a proposal to decide exactly how this will be allocated, but how do you plan to work with state leadership to make sure that those underserved places get access?
Well, since the Commerce Department approves this, I'll have some say as to where it goes. We've designated in the legislation who should be available. And it's not just people with no broadband. There are some people who have a very bad broadband that goes off, that doesn't get the kind of high speed that's needed to get the kind of information that they need. So it will be both. It won't be just none. It will be people who get junky broadband, or intermittent broadband is a better way to put it. Okay?
One more question on that. Do you
Yeah,
have any areas off the top of your head where you plan to focus on?
Anybody in New York State who either doesn't have it or, you can't afford, it's sometimes in many areas $70, $80 a month and people can't afford it. But what about their kids? What about their health care? You end up saving money in the long run. Okay? All right. Now, let's go to the issue of the Farm Bill. And first, I want to thank John, Stephen, and Jill Gould for their help in not just in sponsoring us here, but in all the work they do. John comes down to Washington regularly to help us lobby for the milk program. I want to thank Shelley Stein, who's chair of the Genesee County Legislature, a legislator from Leroy, owner of the Stein Dairy Farm. And hanging in the Capitol is part of her work, because they found, I think in a school, right?
Yep.
A picture, an original drawing of Henry Clay in Leroy that was just discovered, and we came down and it's hanging in the Capitol. And at the ceremony with me was Senator Tom Carper of Delaware, who's a direct descendant of Henry Clay, and he actually looked like the guy in the picture, which was pretty good too. But anyway, thank you. We have Greg Torrey here, a county legislator, Rob LaPointe, supervisor of the town of Pavilion, Amanda Krenning, I don't know how to pronounce your... Moyo, the Farm Bureau. I knew you was Krenning all along before you were even married. Amanda Krenning Moyo, a Farm Bureau field representative. Brian Lord, Genesee, he's the president of the Genesee County Farm Bureau. Jody Smith-Kriziak, Vice President of Economics, Industry, and Legislative Affairs of the Upstate Niagara Cooperative, which owns OATCA, right? You own all of it? Most of it. Matt Landers, the Genesee County Manager, Steve Hyde, the President and CEO of GSCED, and Jim Krensick, Director of Marketing and Communications for GCEDC. And so that is great. And I just want to thank Steve and Jim. We worked very hard. You know, I worked hard on the CHIPS and Science bill. And now we have one of the leading vacuum. When you build chip plants, you need certain ancillary things that make the chip plants work. And one of them is called vacuuming. Edwards is the biggest vacuum company in the world. It's English, and it's now locating in Stamp, our industrial park, not too far away from here in Genesee County. At start, it'll be 600 jobs, and it'll be even more. And it's going to help attract things because this is going to be one of the largest vacuuming plants in the whole country right here in Genesee County. So this is cutting edge, and I thank, where's you, Steve? Where'd you go? There you are. I thank Steve for his good work over there. They needed a good shovel-ready site, and Stamp was, and we're still working on getting, I also got Plug Power to locate in Stamp. It's the only green hydrogen manufacturing plant in the country. So here in Genesee County, we're locating cutting-edge new industries that have a great future to make up for the old industries, some of which left. But one of the mainstays of Genesee County, it's one of our 5 biggest dairy counties in the state. And the dairy industry is still essential to Genesee County. And I always fight for dairy. I was the author originally of the milk program. You know, years ago, the row crops got help from Washington, but fruits and vegetables and milk didn't. And I worked hard as a senator, it was before I was legislator, to get them included. One of my proudest days, I was entitled a Brooklyn Farmer by the New York Farm Bureau. I was Person of the Year, and they gave me a picture of a statue, actually, of a Holstein cow standing on the map of Brooklyn, where we don't have any dairy farms, but I care a lot about them. So it's great to be here at Hargo. This is right in the heart of New York's upstate industry. As I said, we're the 5th, Genesee County is the 5th milk producing county in all of New York State. There are close to 1,000 dairy farms across the Finger Lakes, and milk is the lifeblood of the GLOW region. For those of you from Buffalo or Rochester, GLOW stands for Genesee, Livingston, Orleans, and Wyoming County. And they're among our biggest dairy producers in the state. And we all know that milk from happy, healthy, upstate New York cows tastes better than the milk anywhere else in the nation. The Gould family owns Hargo. It's one of the 340 farms that make up the Upstate Niagara Co-op, which supplies Oatka milk down the road in Batavia, supporting nearly 400 employees, and together with employers like Hood, Dairy Farmers of America, and Yancey's Fancy Cheese, more than 1,000 jobs here in Genesee County are dairy. I helped save Oatka when Canada was really screwing around with a co-op like Oatka. We went after the Canadians and they had to back off. I spoke to Donald Trump about it. He was in Wisconsin and he agreed to help. So this was a good bipartisan thing when he was president. Not that I always agree with him. We're here, though, to discuss an important issue that could seriously impact dairy farmers in the Finger Lakes, and that is what we call the dairy cliff. For those who don't know, the dairy cliff refers to the expiration of this essential program called DMC, Dairy Margin Coverage, which gives monthly payments to our dairy farmers to make up for the differences in the price of milk and feed. The program's a lifeline to our farmers. If Congress doesn't pass the Farm Bill this year, it could expire. We would have no safety net. And that was why we call it going over the dairy cliff. You say, well, the Farm Bill always passes, but this year, with all the problems, as you see in Washington, it's much more difficult. I helped enact the DMC in the Farm Bill in 2018, as Mr. Gould mentioned, but expires in September, and so now I am announcing here in Genesee County, one of the centers of the dairy industry in New York and the country, that I'm launching a new push to protect this program as we work towards the Farm Bill. There are people who want to cut stuff in the Farm Bill. Can't cut the DMC. It's too essential to our farmers. If we go over the cliff, the law would be forced to revert back to 1940s agriculture policy, and that would be a very bad thing for our farmers. It's bad for three reasons. It would end the monthly support program to our hardworking dairy farmers. It would cause huge supply chain disruption and market panic, which means less available milk. The price of milk would go way up. So even if you don't even have a farmer in your family, even if you don't even know a single farmer, you'll be hurt if this program goes out, because price of milk will go up, and all the other things that milk is used in would go up as well. The cost of milk could potentially double. And last, we would see billions of dollars in avoidable federal government spending, because then the feds would be forced back to the antiquated policy of buying milk off the market. So we can't afford to go over the dairy cliff. And our farmers in upstate New York know that best. Genesee is a huge contributor to the dairy industry. It's the 67th biggest county of milk in the country, let alone the 5th in New York. So it's a national issue. Genesee County sells $114 million worth of cow's milk. That's 48% of all the profits of anything agriculture sold in the county. So we can't afford to put the dairy industry in the Finger Lakes out to passage. Bad for our local farmer. Horrible for dairy farms. This Gould family is a multi-generational farm. We've had families that have been here 5, 6 generations now, dairy farming. That would end if this happened. And third, price of milk would go up. So I want to assure our farmers, I'm going to use my clout as majority leader to make sure that this doesn't happen, that we keep the DMC program. And now, and by the way, the news about the broadband is new. President's announcing it at 11:30. So, but I got the New York State numbers earlier, and so just so you press people know, you could get the beat on the announcement. If it doesn't rain, Mr. McKinley, he's looking at the sky. It won't rain. Okay, we have just one speaker, and that is our county legislative chair, Shelley Stein, who is not only chair of the legislature, but owner of Stein Farms Dairy. Shelley.
Thank you very much. It is really a pleasure to have you, absolutely, right? But it's a pleasure to have you here today with us in Genesee County. We know of your passion and your interest, not only for our dairy farmers, but for our county and its robust economy, and we can't thank you enough for that.
Thank you.
This dairy margin coverage program that farmers take advantage of, it's a voluntary program. It is risk management driven, but it means a lot, because at times when our feed cost is over the cost of our production, it means that we are losing money with every 100 pounds of milk that we ship out to be processed for the American public. That hurts our generational farms, and that investment continues to be eroded. The dairy margin coverage is one of those safety nets that farmers can opt into voluntarily, and it's important for us. So thank you so much for doing that. Our farm, Stein Farms, also a dairy farmer, Dairy Farmers of America, proud cooperative member. We use this program as well, and it's meaningful. The benefit of this program is it doesn't matter what size your farm is. So today you're here at a farm that milks 200 cows, John?
250.
250, sorry, got that wrong. But it also benefits those farms that have, those family farms that have 1,000 cows or 200,000 cows. This is a program that works for every single farm size, and that's important because it supports the Northeast hub of dairy processing right here in Genesee County. And that not only supports our farms, our generational investment, our local, safe, high quality food that we produce here on our farms, but it saves our rural resources. So these fields that make the feed for the cows, which use water, which then goes into our processing plants that support so many careers here in Genesee County. That, Rob, I'm going to use your words, that ladder rung every time a farm produces. We support several other economies. So the farm families win with this. The land resources win with this. our generational investments from our farms and our families win with the support of for the dairy margin coverage. Thank you so much,
Thank
Senator.
you. And Shelley's a Republican, I'm a Democrat. You hear about a lot of the partisan stuff in Washington, but this is a metaphor. We're not going to let partisanship get in the way of supporting our farmers.
You're right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Oh, Brian, go ahead. Yes. Okay, this is Brian Lord. He's head of the Genesee County Farm Bureau.
Kind of nice to meet you.
Thank you, Brian.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Brian Lord. I'm the president of the Genesee County Farm Bureau. Thank you very much, Senator Schumer, for coming to Hargo Dairy today and highlighting the importance of dairy farming to New York's agricultural and economic viability. Dairy farmers continue to experience price fluctuation and business challenges, and the 2023 Farm Bill is an opportunity to support dairy farmers across the state. As I said, my name is Brian Lord, and I proudly serve as the president of the Genesee County Farm Bureau. I have a crop farm here in Genesee County, of which I sell crops directly to dairy farms. My other full-time job is a loan officer at Farm Credit East, where I help support the dairy industry. Farm Bureau represents farmers all across different commodities. It is truly the most diverse agricultural organization in the state. New York is unique due to the nature of agricultural products that are grown and produced, including livestock, dairy, fruit and vegetables, row crops, maple, aquaculture, and much more. The Farm Bill provides critical safety net for all farmers who choose to utilize these programs, especially when times are tough because of extreme weather events or low commodity prices. It also provides critical resources to ensure the longevity of agriculture, including much needed research and support for conservation programs. As Congress drafts the 2023 Farm Bill, there are several dairy priorities that I wish to highlight for inclusion in the legislation. Dairy. As New York's #1 agricultural industry, Title I dairy programs provide important risk management protections to ensure that there is support program for when milk prices do fall. The Dairy Margin Coverage Program, or DMC as we've heard it called, has been a very successful program thus far and is important over previous Farm Bill programs. In 2021, there were 1,728 dairy farms enrolled in DMC. That represents about half of New York State's dairy farms.
And we worked with the Farm Bureau to craft this so it would work.
Based on dairy farmer feedback, DMC has provided the support it was intended to. But there are minor changes to improve the program. These include incorporating and supplementing DMC changes and feed costs that USDA made in 2021 to the 2023 Farm Bill. We would also like to increase the Tier 1 coverage level from the current 5 million pound limit to 10 million pounds. We support...
You don't have to read the whole thing.
I know. This is also a desire to see Tier 1 margin coverage from $9.50 to $12. This will help address the current inflationary price issues that we are seeing. Thank you again, Senator Schumer, for taking the time to listen to our dairy farmer needs. And I look forward to working with you and my fellow New York Farm Bureau members to secure a 2023 Farm Bill that meets the diverse needs of New York farmers.
Great. And we're working with the New York Farm Bureau to get those changes. They're small but very important changes to get in. We are.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, good. And by the way, one other point. Your offices will now have the release on the broadband, which I couldn't give to you because we just got it. Okay, but you can, using your access to broadband, you can get those right now. Okay, questions on the dairy program? Yes.
Senator Schumer. So with the Farm Bill, what's the cost that you're looking at to be able to continue supporting the dairy farms of upstate New York? What's the cost that?
We haven't arrived at an exact cost. We're going to try to keep it by making some savings in other areas about at the same level as last year. Because as you know, there were budget caps that were put in place in the bill to prevent us from going into default. So we'll have to live with those caps. But the dairy program will fit under those caps. Yes, Mr. McKinley. Okay. Shelley or John?
Yeah, sure. So we got into this situation, I know it's several years long. You're having to rely on the government, payments for this and that. And farmers I've talked to in the past wish it was like just farm, sell your stuff, and not have to rely on payments from the government for 10 different things. Are we ever going to get back to a point where we do that?
Well,
Is farming-
can I start? Farming is not like a normal business where you turn out widgets. God forbid there's a huge storm here and their crops are gone and they'll lose their farms if there weren't support for these kinds of things. Or something could happen on the world market that raises the price of the commodities that you need to feed the cows. They go broke. So this has been going since the 30s. Our farmers went, 1930s. Our farmers went so broke then, and there was such poverty that this program, the original CCC program, came in. Now that had a lot of problems, so we've made this much more pointed to only be used when the farmers really need it, because there's a difference, there's weather problems, or there's difference in the cost of feed and the other things they need to maintain their farms. Do you want to elaborate a little, Shelley?
So
Yeah.
I would
Come over
just-
here, come
oh,
over here.
Sorry. I would like to add that the DMC program, farmers actually opt in with a premium payment. So not all of the cost is being borne by our taxpayers. The largest issue that all farms have when we produce a commodity, we do not set our own prices. The government sets the prices of our milk going out the door. And we don't even know what that price is today. For the milk made in June, we won't know that until July. So our product is already out the door, and there's an abundant food policy here in the United States of America that our families will never go hungry. So part of our farm economy is just geared into the government, because not every single person in America grows their own food and they rely on someone else to do that. The safety net of our United States government says everyone shall have plentiful, high-quality food. So while I hear your question, it is multi-layered, the answer to that. But number one, high-quality food in America that is safe for everyone to eat.
And there's a second.
And drink.
We don't want to depend on foreign countries to feed our people. We've always been abundant. Actually, we export dairy agriculture products, including dairy. And there are other countries. We had big problems with Canada a few years ago. This is OATCA, this big cooperative here, was ready to go under because Canada was undercutting them in a lot of vicious ways, and Canada's our ally. We can't have no farms. That's what would happen if we had no government involvement.
I just would repeat that it's an insurance program. The DMC is an insurance program. So it's a form of risk management for farmers. So it's an opportunity to at least provide you with some level of support when things are poor. And nobody likes direct handouts, and this is not a direct handout. We participate. We put money down. But obviously it's subsidized by the government, but it's the best form we've had, and it's as Shelley has shared that it's broad-based. It's for all dairymen. There's
When farms are really prosperous, they have to pay into the program.
And last year, for example, was a very strong dairy year. It was barely used. But this year, there's geopolitical events that go on. We have our China's in, China's out. Taiwan was an issue last week.
Right.
And so, that affect how we're able to export, and we depend heavily on exports. So the world has changed in terms of how we market our milk and the risk that we're taking. So that's this insurance program is essential.
We don't want these small farmers to be buffeted about and actually put out of business by international forces that are beyond their control or fault. Any other questions on this? Yes.
You said that there's issues in Washington that's kind of, it's depending on how those go is how the market will.
Just overall amounts of spending. But the Farm Bill has always had bipartisan support. And here in the Senate, Senator Stabenow, the chair of the committee, a Democrat, and Senator Bozeman, a Republican, the ranking member, are really coming together on a bill. Yes?
I just kind of follow up on that. What are the risk factors?
One would be a government shutdown, and nothing would be renewed. There are...
What's the roadblock to maybe getting this passed?
The roadblocks would be that there's a group of people who just want to cut all the spending across the board instead of just looking at where the waste is and keeping good programs like this one. Usually we prevail, but this year things are pretty hot in Washington. That's why I'm here. I'm making a big push to make sure this program is sustained. Okay? Thank you, everybody.
May I add one more thing
Shelley,
about-
last word.
About the Farm Bill? No,
Yeah.
this is important. The Farm Bill, 98% of the Farm Bill is used and directed to feeding programs for people in America. 2% of that entire program goes into farm programs. So 2% of the spending makes sure that we can feed the rest of America. That is really critical, that when people hear Farm Bill, they assume all of that money that is directed to the program comes to farmers. Look it up. 98% of that bill feeds America.
Shelley, broadband question. As county legislator, can I do that?
Sure. Is that okay? I just
Yes,
took over.
please,
I'm sorry,
please.
terribly sorry.
Shelley, you're happy to take. I'm happy to have you take over anytime.
I'm not sure I want that, but thanks.
I wanted to give you a chance to address, the broadband from your perspective. What needs do you see in Genesee County, and how will this help?
So Genesee County right now has a plan for allowing every single address point in Genesee County to be made available to broadband. It's a $7.2 million project that we have on the table. We've set aside $3 million of our ARPA funding. Thank you for the ARPA funding. But the rest of that will have to be funded. So with this announcement today, I mean, my bells in my head are already going off. We have our EDC here that will help us to put a program together. We have our Genesee Regional Finger Lakes Planning Council here that will also be working on this federal program because they help us draw down money from the economic development arm of the federal government. So for us, it means perhaps we will not have to bond the rest of that, which is great news today. Thank you, Senator.
How much of the county is without broadband?
We have 1,578 address points without broadband, and as you well know, you look at what we have out here. It is the farthest points that we need to get to, and those that are in between two easy points, that's that line that we need. So again, it's a $7.2 million bill for just Genesee County, and this today is going to be a game changer for us here. Thank you, Howard.
Thank you, everybody. Oh, yes. Yes. We are, as you know, the Kias and the Hyundais have had a lot of theft. The city of Buffalo or the Erie County has had a lot of theft. I talked about it in Buffalo about 2 months ago. And the problem is, all you need is a simple little USB hot wire to hotwire one of these cars and steal them. No other cars have this. Kia and Hyundai have a poor design of their electro-catalytic converter, which allows you to steal this. So we're putting pressure on those two companies to change it. If they don't change it in a few months, we'll look at legislation to force them to. Okay? McKinley. I can't hear you.
With the House Ways and Means Committee releasing the testimony about the two IRS whistleblowers, the FBI and IRS that appeared with the election, the big guy in the room, is it time to start proceedings?
Look, the bottom line is that the legal process should proceed without political interference, period, in every corner.